All right, let's give it a try now.
No, it doesn't seem to be working. Can you make me a host?
I
You may
did
want to
make you a host.
reload the. You may need to reload the world as well.
All right. You are all actors, is that right?
Yes, and other things, entertainers.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I feel like,
Oh,
we're
like this
all
sort
a
of
bit of
things.
other things because, it's hard to make a living as an actor in such a just society where, where there's so many of us, so many actors. And so that's why I'm excited to share this new form with you as a place to perform because there's not a lot of people on this platform right now. And you could have some exciting opportunities quickly if you start, you start working with us. You got Whitten up. Yay. Oh, wonderful. And you've got your host. Great.
Yes.
This is our other guys. Analyst, this is Whitten Frank. We just want to make sure that we stay kind of close to the front of the stage because that makes it feel a little bit more intimate and better for our cameraman and our other cameraman.
Guys, thank you.
Yeah. So it's only 12:01. So I was just asking about everyone what their level of performances was, and I was just saying how this platform is super exciting because it offers an opportunity that most of us don't have to perform and quickly move up the ladder of visibility because there aren't a lot of people doing the stuff in here, and so all of a sudden you're on the cutting edge, and it's quite an exciting place to be.
That's true, but it's also one of the issues, I would say, because there aren't a lot of actors who are, able to do it all without some sort of intense training period on just how to perform in VR.
Yeah, it certainly helps to come to something like this and find out from people who've done it before, so you can shortcut yourself to knowing how to do it. I've been doing it for about 2 years now, and I think you too, as well, as about 2 years been doing it.
You're an experienced immersive performer as well. Previous to that, and I'm as well also an experienced performer. And
I acted once. I don't know what I'm doing.
No. Brian is our world builder and one of the founders, co-founders of Ferryman Collective, and our Brian's Discord username is Krampus. So our show last December was Krampusnacht, and I'm gonna bet you all can guess who played Krampus.
There we go. The role I was born to play.
And
was yes. I mean, listen to that voice. I mean, how can you not play Krampus with that voice, right?
Right.
We've got some claps on that one. Right. So, how many of you here are new to acting in general? Anybody here new to acting in general? Like, I'm just starting out. We've got two. Excellent. Okay. Hi, welcome to, acting, which is a crazy experiment in life. How about somebody who's been acting? I would say like you're at a moderate level, like you've done some stuff and you're feeling pretty good about where you're at. Sort of a moderate level of acting.
Maybe been doing it for a few years now.
Yeah, let's say doing it for about.
All right. And do we have any long-term performers? 10 years, doing it since middle school. Hey, what's up, guys? Me too. I know. All right. Okay. Cool. What about immersive theater specifically? Do we have any immersive theater actors? Oh, hey. Yeah. All right. Very cool. Awesome.
You move towards the microphone.
The mic
Can do. Let me see if I do my amplify. There we go. Is that better?
Good.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So immersive theater specifically, we have quite a few here. That's cool. That's up. And then voice actors. Any that's your main thing? Voice acting or voiceover? Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. I mean, I know, at least for myself, especially if you live in New York or LA, you sort of do a bit of everything most of the time.
Yeah, I was wondering for our immersive actors, which of them were LA, which of them were New York. That's where the only place that y'all live, right? That's like, I think that's true. I don't know.
There's some stuff in Austin, and
Yeah.
I know Atlanta's
Regional major
becoming pretty
cities.
hip right now. Where did Deirdre go?
I don't know. We lost Deirdre.
All right, well, we'll start in a minute as soon as she comes back, I suppose.
Yes, indeed.
Um,
Lovely to see
And
so many
has-
familiar faces. I recognize a lot of these people from our social club and VR Live.
Yay!
So always lovely
Yes.
to have the crew out. Yes. Yeah. I make music. We
Yay.
got Anna.
Awesome.
We got all sorts of people.
Oh, yeah. Lots of friends in the audience. That's always nice.
Yes.
Always
It
prefer
is.
that. Oh, there's Deirdre. She's back. All right. Well, it's 5 past, Joey.
That's sort of one of the fabulous things about, art is technology is another character in your show.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's good to be adaptable and be
Yeah.
able to respond to whatever rises. Yes.
Yes, that happens. The world, people fall out of the world and then you have to adjust. So yeah, we were just talking about starting. Did we want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, first of all, let me go ahead and introduce you all to our lovely camera team. Woo woo! Let's raise the roof for Carlos Austin and Andrew Burr. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you, thank you, thank
They're
you.
live
They are
on YouTube right now, so there you go.
Yeah. recording this and streaming it for the general public because they're awesome, right? And they're my friends, and they're here to make that happen. I think you're ready, Carlos. I didn't see hearts yet. You want to give me some hearts when you're ready? Well, otherwise, I got some hearts. Okay, so we're gonna start. All right, so here's me being dramatic now. Okay, theater in virtual reality. It's not new, but it is gaining in popularity as people discover this. Well, it's a wonderful storytelling platform, and VR theater offers the feeling of embodiment and immersion that closely mimics the experience of attending a theatrical event in person. It's vibrant, it's engaging, there's a richness of experience combined with the rapid growth of technologies, the increased visibility for local theater groups that can now have global audiences. It is set to revive the ancient art of theater that has been in competition with movies and TV. People no longer, they no longer have to drive to a location to experience theater. They can do it right from their homes. My name is Deirdre V. Lyons, and this is Whitton Frank, and that is Brian Tull. Both Whitton and I are producers and performers in the Ferryman Collective's current show, Severance Theory. Welcome to Respite. Brian is a producer and a world builder on the same show, and a former actor on one of our previous shows. The Severance Theory, Welcome to Respite, is live theater in virtual reality. It held its premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival this last year. Its international premiere at this year's 78th Venice International Film Festival, of which I was able to attend in person, which was amazing, even though it's crazy. And then its Asian premiere at the Kaohsiung Film Festival in Taiwan. And we are currently performing shows for Raindance in London, Raindance Immersive and Film Festival through November 21st. Now, a little background on me. Since 2016, I've been working with the top immersive theater companies in Los Angeles. Then in 2019, I joined the ensemble cast of The Underpresents, an immersive theater experience in VR that was selected as a finalist for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Innovation in Interactive Media and a winner of the VR Awards Experience of the Year, as well as a Shakespearean production from the same studio, Tender Claws, called The Underpresents Tempest, a live, part-scripted, part-improvised, immersive experience that audiences attended from home using a virtual reality headset, winner of Best Narrative Experience at the Raindance Film Festival as well. And this is where Whitton and I met, as she was also a cast member on The Underpresents and in The Underpresents Tempest. So that is where we met. Now, I was also a performer in Finding Pandora X with Double I Studios, winner of the Best Immersive Experience in the Venice VR Expanded, the official virtual reality competition of the 77th Annual Venice International Film Festival, so 2 years ago. I then started performing and producing live VR immersive experiences with a group of creators that I co-founded, along with Brian Tall, called the Ferryman Collective, and that Whitton joined after we did Para and Krampusnacht. And Krampusnacht, oh, actually, Whitton joined us for Para, and then we did Krampusnacht. And then Krampusnacht was a finalist for the PGA Innovation Award. Oh my God, how did that happen? And that brings us up to date. The current show, Welcome Respite. Sorry, just wanted to get all that through that you could know why the heck we're up here telling you about this thing called VR theater. Am I right?
Yeah, Deirdre and I know each other from The Underpresents and The Tempest by Tender Claws. I'm an actor and producer and performer in Los Angeles. I've been a working actor professionally since probably 2010. And I've done film,
megaphone, please,
television, and theater. Oh, right. Sorry. Hi. Yes. So yes, I've been a professional actor since 2010 in Los Angeles. I've done film, television, and voiceover. You can hear me on a few podcasts right now. I also narrate audiobooks on Audible. So yeah, and I've been doing the immersive VR theater since 2019, which is very exciting and sort of a fun combination of all of the various skills. And yes, and I'm also a member of the Ferryman Collective. And Brian?
That's correct.
All right, my turn. I've been involved in the VR community since around 2014, 2015, when those first development kits were released. So I've been a VR enthusiast for a very long time. Shortly after that, I started working for Horror Buzz, which is a site that reviews everything horror. And I started covering a lot of immersives, including the shows that Deirdre was in. So that's where I got involved with immersives. And then in 2019, I became aware of The Underpresents, which was a wonderful experience that brought together the two things that I really love, VR and immersive theater. So I got involved with that community, which got me a little bit more into contact with Deirdre and with Whitton to a certain degree. And as that was wrapping up, I just said I would really like to get involved with this. You know, I had some experience as a hobbyist 3D modeler and animator, and I figured, you know, let's do a fun little thing for Halloween as the game is kind of starting to go away. Let's bring the community together for one last hurrah. And we did something a little fun with Para last year for Halloween, and we just wanted to keep it ongoing. Things were going well, and people were responding well to it. So I've continued my work as a world builder, producer, occasional actor with the Ferryman Collective. And now we've been able to bring you Welcome to Respite. And we're excited for all of the future projects to come.
Yes. So let's start with what does it mean to be a performer in virtual reality, Whitton?
Well, I mean, it's weirdly similar to being a performer in real life, right? You're utilizing a lot of the same skills. It's a very, I would say, much more intimate experience. So you're sort of combining, I think we've described it as the connection of film, theater, and gaming. So in terms of acting skills, I find myself using a lot of theatrical techniques, but with a more voiceover / filmic perspective. So I'm usually talking much more intimately with one or two people. So you're using a much different kind of perspective, but a lot of the skills you utilize, I would say, come from a theatrical background, like mask work or puppetry. and even to some extent, sort of spatial movement and various movement techniques, other movement techniques there. I think it's a combination of a lot of different performance skills, on top of which, for a lot of these productions, you're going to be the one controlling what is happening in the world. On top of focusing on your performance and making connections with the participants, you're also having to be your own stage manager slash ops master slash costume and run crew. So it is a lot, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly, it certainly is. And I just want to give a quick overview of what the difference between, immersive theater and proscenium theater is. A lot of people probably already know this, but for those of you that don't, proscenium theater is, of course, behind a fourth wall, and you sit in your chairs and you look up at the stage at the actors that are performing. The reason that we've decided to do immersive theater, which means that we break the fourth wall, we bring the audience, into the space with us, is because I just feel like this is an incredible platform for immersive theater, and it's so much more intimate, and it's so much more interesting for me as an experience, because there aren't a lot of nuances in the space yet, and I think that's going to change as technology changes. We'll get higher fidelity, facial features, and all the the facial recognition, the full body tracking, all that, but it isn't actually needed, right? You don't have to have that to have an effective performance, to have an effective emotional connection with an audience member. But I don't think it works with, as well with the audience out there and the actors up here. Bring the audience into the space with us, and we interact with them. So, for example, in the Severance Theory, Welcome to Respite, the star of the show is our Alex. It's a 7-year-old child. So we, as the parents playing either the mom or dad, are interacting with Alex in the show and, improvising with them as they talk, or if we ask them a question. That's sort of the difference between immersive theater and proscenium theater. And I have seen proscenium theater done here. It's done very well. I've seen some great shows, and I don't want to put anybody off of it if that's their preference. But some people who don't know about immersive theater, or they've only heard about Sleep No More in New York, or maybe the Willows in LA, and they haven't experienced it. Well, that's what it is, and that's why we do immersive theaters, because I just feel like it's a great platform to bring our audience into experience something that only is available in the big cities. Yeah. So what are the opportunities in VR?
Do you mean in terms of performance, or in terms of what VR allows you to do? It might be different.
Let's start with one and then go to the other.
At the moment, I suppose the performance opportunities are fairly limited. It's a lot of people like us coming up with our own companies and agendas and trying to make VR theater more readily available and known in the larger world. But I know quite a lot of people are very excited about it. So there definitely are opportunities coming. Definitely make sure that you are checking the No Proscenium call sheet and up to date on some of the Discords that are working with VR specifically, I would say. And we can send you those links if you're interested. Yeah. In terms of what VR theater, sorry.
Well, I would just add that, if you're a brave and creative soul, though, you don't have to wait for those opportunities. You can just go out and start doing it right now, right? There's AltSpace, there's we work in VR chat, there's Neos, there's, whatever is your favorite, social VR platform. Find a world in there, and you can stage a show. Like right now, I mean, comedians are doing it, musicians are doing it. You can do it. I would only say if you're going to try to sell tickets to your show, that, you get permissions from the world builders and the people that have contributed to your show, or go out into a community, like, start hanging out in AltSpace or your favorite social platform, and get to know some of the people that are there and some world builders. Form a small group of people who are interested in that and want to help you on your journey. I mean, that's how we came together. You know, Brian was like, I'm going to build a world in VR chat because I want to do this. And I said, okay, I'll come in and help you. Let's do this. And, you know, there was Braden there, and I told Steve, you know, help us out with this, and just started that way, and then it grew. And in a year, right? In a year, we go from Para, which is a 20-minute, you know, cute proof of concept, to our second show being a finalist in the PGA Innovation Award. I mean, it was just that easy, to being in some of the biggest film festivals in the world, right? So that is also there for you. There aren't a lot of people in the space doing it. So if you want to get out there and start doing it in a very quick amount of time, you can find a community, you can start performing, you can start, you know, do a monologue slam, you know, with your best friends, you know, get out there and just get started and see where that leads you. And then you were going to talk about the other opportunities.
I was actually Oh, yes. Well, I think what you touched on earlier, one of the surprising things about VR theater is the ability to create the same emotional catharsis that one might have in watching live theater or particularly good film or television. One of the things that we found really interesting in the Under Presents was that you didn't need an avatar that had high fidelity eyes or even a mouth to have the audience feel a sense of connection with that person. Because as performers, that's a thing we are trained to do, right? To foster connection and intimacy and things like that. And that still comes across even in this sort of environment, even in the VR world. So don't feel like you have to have these super crazy avatars, you know, or super hyper realistic. That's not necessary. What is necessary, of course, is to utilize your training as a performer. That's all still there. All of those techniques you've learned at school or in the real world from experiences, they're all going to come into play here, perhaps even more so, because you do have to get across this boundary of this kind of overtly false world. Once you do, you find that the connections are just as real. For us with the Underpresents, it created this whole fan base that I think was really surprising to all of us, because participants felt very strong connections to the live performers. You were able to build stories with them, go on their own emotional journeys without even, you know, a very like strong, realistic character. That was pretty incredible. So that's one of the things that I think you want to keep in mind. Don't be too worried that people will be put off by the VR environment. I have found that is almost universally untrue.
Well, in some ways, people can be a little even more vulnerable because they are at home in a safe place. They're behind a mask, literally. They're a bit anonymous, so they can be a little bit more emotionally available to you. And our voices are so powerful. We're so used to listening to people on the phone or listening to our family members in the other room or talking to each other that we're really good at picking up subtle emotional changes in a voice. And that's what carries our emotion, is our voice in this space.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, as a world builder, what are some of the things you have to think about when building a world specifically for performance versus just a puzzle or a game, you know, sort of a more straight up?
The way I like to put it is that in a traditional game experience, it's all about the player. It's all about whoever is embodying that character and is going through that world. And that is still very important. You know, I guess the closest thing to our player in Welcome to Respite is our Alex character that interacts with the audience, or with our performers. But in a game perspective and in a traditional single player experience, your focus is very much on what is that player going to be experienced? What are they going to be interacting with? How are they going to interface with the world? And this and live performance almost puts more of that onus on the what would traditionally be the non-player characters, the NPCs, people in the world, which are traditionally more of just an extension of the story. You know, they are an embodiment of the story that doesn't really serve any particular purpose other than creating the feeling that you're interacting with something versus just getting a page of text. But for what we're doing, it's very much in how do the inhabitants of the world interface with the world, and how does that create this experience that allows the audience member to almost feel like there's a world outside of this world. I think that's such an important thing whenever you're dealing with anything immersive, is you don't want to let on that there are limits and there are walls here. So when we show someone interacting with an object, when we pouring the macaroni and cheese, or stirring it, or doing all these various things that they're doing, we don't want to let on that we're only showing you the few things that they can interact with. Most of the world is static, but we have these smoke ears up that anything that they are interacting with, we want to show you that they actually are able to deal with it in a naturalistic way, and that creates this impression that the world is less bounded than it actually is.
Whitton, how do you deal with props as an avatar and as a virtual being?
As an avatar.
Well, it definitely takes practice, and you do rely heavily, I would say. It's good to, if you are thinking about starting a company, it is definitely good to have world builders and programmers on your team, because you can then finesse, refine how you handle props in VR. It can be a little clunky, for sure, and it does take some getting used to. A lot of times, especially in VR chat, the platform that we use, you have separate buttons that trigger something to happen from the actual object you're interacting with. So it's a bit like a magic trick, where you're trying to direct the audience's attention to a music box, per se, while you are triggering an effect to happen with the other hand over here. Mm-hmm. You do have a bit of a split focus, which I think is really useful to do a lot of practice with. I would say you can't do too many runs, and if you are building a team and putting together a company, I would make sure that you are taking a few weeks of rehearsal time just to get comfortable interacting with objects in VR, not even in your own show, a practice world, just like you would, just like you would in a live theatrical performance, where you have this month-long rehearsal process. You have your blocking, you have the journey of a prop, right? Where does it start? Where does it end up? How do you handle the prop? How does your character handle this prop? Is it something you like or dislike? I think all of that can still come across in VR, but you do have this added layer of the fact that sometimes when you grab a prop, it's floating 2 inches above your hand, and how do you compensate for that in the moment? Or is there a trigger that causes the prop do something that is actually not connected to the physical prop itself? These are all added concerns that you have to think about as a performer when you're dealing with objects in VR that you wouldn't have to in a real live performance. How do you hand that prop to the participant, or can they? Is it something that the participant can touch, or is it not? And if they can't, you avoid them, as Brian said, sort of figuring that out and being upset that the world isn't limitless. So these are all questions that you want to think about when you're building your world or your story for performance VR.
Yeah, and for example, like we have this cupboard that we open in the show, and the button is here, cupboard's up here. So I'll hit the button here, but I'll swing this hand open while the cupboard moves. It'll be maybe a second before or a second after, but it kind of gives that illusion that I'm opening the cupboard. Or when I picked up Uni, our little unicorn, I try to hold it from the bottom instead of like the side, because other than it, like who holds a stuffed animal like a coffee cup, right? Nobody. They like hold it like it's something special. I also work a lot in front of mirrors, because, or at least, you can't really, hard to take props with you in front of the mirrors because they probably exist in another world, but just like running lines in front of mirrors has helped me, sort of see how my avatar moves and get used to the way it interacts. What happens if I turn too fast? Oh, I lose my arms. I can't turn that fast, right? Because they get stuck behind me or something. I can't track that fast. So you get used to sort of like trying, and it's never going to be perfect, or at least not now. So you at least try to, get so that it looks as much as it should in real life as it can. But it's not going to look like it would in real life if you're a stick of butter, because you can be, right? Your avatar can be anything, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think
At
some
least in VR
interesting
chat.
avatars, haven't you?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, playing a skeleton in The Underpresents, or
a crab,
or a voiceless crab, or a voiceless god, or a bodiless god. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Things like that. But I think maybe what might be useful, because this is so specific, and so many of you are performers. If we opened up, I mean, it's about half past. But I think it'll be useful for everyone if you have some specific questions. Then we can.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I should have told you this before. Yeah. If you have specific questions, you can always, if you don't want to talk, you don't have to. You can just send them to me. Like, let me come up here to the front. Let us all come up to the front so you can friend all of us. So you can send us, any questions that you might have. There isn't that.
Yeah, let's
thing.
open it up. Do you have any specific questions as it relates to your own company or performance, or
and don't let the company thing fool you. Like, it doesn't have, you can just start just you, right? It doesn't it can start small, right?
You could put on a show out there if you want. I mean, we got like a little lobby out there. You could do one time there. Just record it.
Yeah. do a show about a tour guide and take people on tours. Right? Life is falling apart because they have to get back to feed their cat, but they keep getting stuck in all these different tours for one reason or another. Anything. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and either raise their hand or like physically, or we can give you one of these. Here, look at this thing. Fancy, I can give you this.
There you go. Run that around to the audience.
Anybody?
Right?
Got a question?
Anybody?
No? Oh, well, Lord knows we can talk. So,
talk more of it, but I thought
if
there were
anybody's
some
feeling
specific...
like shy, you don't have to. We can certainly talk about kinds of things, like as equipment. I think is a big thing, right? So, what kind of equipment do you use to do this, and what kind of modifications have you done to your equipment? And if you decide you want the microphone, ask me. Just send me a message or raise your hand. Okay. Let's talk about some equipment.
Oh yeah, so I use an Oculus Quest. I'm still using my one, actually, the first version, and it's been pretty okay. I'll probably have to get a two. Whenever I'm not in it, I leave it charging. That's a big thing for me, is like as soon as I take it off, even if I have a second performance that same day, plug it into the battery. It's constantly charging. The other thing I have added to it is a weight in the back of the headset to balance out the weight of the front of the headset, so that I can be in headset a little bit longer. Yes, question.
Question from you, sure?
Is it you? Yeah.
Oh
God! I'm dropping
you might have
it.
to use it. You might have to hold it for
I'm
a bit.
here.
I'm not sure.
All right.
Okay.
If I put it here, no, it disappears.
No.
Darn it! I don't
Yes.
know. Okay,
Well,
we tried. So yeah,
Yes.
just talk loud.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can
I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm new to VR, and to me, I'm still going through this phase where I'm forcing myself to believe in this world.
Sure.
And what you are, since you are theater people, it makes me intrigued to ask that when people are already going through this phase of believing in this fake world, and theater is itself is a fake world, then how is your practice evolving during this transition?
Right. So if I hear you right, you're saying that virtual reality seems very fake to you, and you're wondering how our audiences are responding to this VR world that they're seeing around them. Does that sound like what you're asking?
No,
Also,
to
how
me,
how do we adapt our performance to overcome that, to help with the suspension of disbelief?
yeah, to put it in shorter terms, to me, theater sounds a fake world in a fake world. So, which is also very interesting.
You mean doing a theater is a fake world within virtual reality, which is a fake world?
Yeah. So,
Right.
Let me give this a try. So everything you see in film has been developed over 100 years, right? All the things from like, over the shoulder cuts to the music swelling to CGI has been there and created to make you feel like you're standing in that world, to make you to draw you in. But it is a 2D medium, and everything that has evolved around movies has been created to make you feel like you're immersed in that movie. And we've been watching them for so long that we can easily get lost in a 2D story in a movie or a television show. You drop somebody into virtual reality, we no longer have to do over the shoulders. And we can add music to enhance, but we don't have to supply it to give you the feeling of what you should be feeling, because we are interacting in real time. And the fact that your eyes are your most dominant sense, being able to see everywhere you look, if you look up, if you look down, if you look behind you, it tricks your brain into thinking that what your experience is real. So now we get to the theater part where, you're now in a story or watching a story. We're used to doing that. We're used to getting lost in a story because we're natural storytellers. It's what we do. It's what we've grown up on. It's, all the way through history to the prehistoric drawings on caves. We've been telling stories around the campfire and evolved to, all of the different venues that we have now. So I think that we as people need stories to help us get context, to give an understanding, empathy to so many things. And we're just used to being able to get lost in a story, regardless of the medium.
But also, just like in live theater, I mean, I think personally, proscenium theater, right, where like this, the audience is sitting there and we're here talking not even to you, but to each other, is, could be, as you said, fairly fake. But one of the oldest sort of agreements between performer and audience is the willing suspension of disbelief. When you go to see a piece of theater, you internally are saying, I accept that there are these limitations. I'm going to allow myself to get lost in the story. And I think that same principle absolutely comes into bear in VR, and actually in some ways is less difficult because you can be, I can be here with you, talking to you in a real way. And especially with immersive theater, that's exactly what we're doing, right? In some ways, I think it's actually less off-putting because you literally, as Deirdre said, get to be in the story, in the world. It's all around you physically. Even if you can feel the headset, on your face.
And I don't even know if it's necessarily a problem, sort of the artificialness. To me, that's almost fascinating. Being in the Underpresents, we had these various connections with these characters. I mean, there were even marriages between the characters that the audience portrayed and the characters that the performers portrayed. I mean, that's a fascinating thing, where you have this artificial layer and you don't know these people, but then you're kind of working your way into these relationships that you would typically only have with people that you knew very, very well. And to me, that's a fascinating thing, the boundaries between the performer and the performance, and sort of how we're playing with pushing past the boundaries of that typical audience performer relationship, and to some level the discomfort and the weirdness that comes along with having this level of connection with someone that you've only experienced, only have interacted with via an avatar. So I think it's a fascinating thing for me.
I think that involves what Deirdre mentioned earlier, which is you are having this intimate face-to-face performance with someone, but you're also safe in your own home, right? You're in a safe space. So you can allow yourself perhaps to be a little bit more vulnerable, to be a little bit more open to connection, because at the end of the day, you know you are safe and you are in a secure space, which I think is really one of the beautiful things about VR and performance in VR. I know we had some questions over here.
Questions? Yeah.
1, 2. Let's do
2.
Karen. Right there, and then Anna. Yes, you. Yes. Cannot hear you.
Are you
Oh,
you,
yeah.
You may,
Yeah, try unmuting.
And then, yeah, I saw you back there. Let's see. I want to try the microphone. No, we still can't hear you.
Can't make it go. You can type me the message. I know it'll take a bit, so we'll move on to another question while you hammer that out on your thing. Ross, did you have a question? No. Anna, why don't you go ahead and go?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hi, friend.
Yep, we can hear you.
Good to see you. Anna from Immersive Theater, also a very talented immersive theater, currently doing Cages in Los Angeles, California. Am I right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yes,
Yeah,
true. I have a technical question, I guess. I'm curious what solutions you guys have found if, for example, your audience member playing Alex gets kicked out, or if one of the performers gets kicked out mid-show. Like, how do you guys address that?
Our third character in the show is always technical issues, right? So yes, we expect these things to happen. And we have plans for that. So we have onboarding characters, and if we need to call in intermission, we can transport to another space, turn into one of our onboarding characters, a little bear or a little Lego man, and sort of come in and sort of call a halt to the show and fix whatever problem is needed, because it is so new. Everything is new. Audience members are not really, they kind of expect it. It is a fact that we will have to deal with tech issues, and everybody understands I fell off of Wi-Fi. So I think that it's kind of,
we also have a stage
build in
manager
contingencies, and you try to create plan Bs for yourself.
We always have someone off platform. In most cases, it's actually Brian here. So if absolutely necessary, things went completely bananas, where both performers fell out of the world, we could say, Brian, can you jump in very quickly and just either take on one of our onboarding characters and say, oh no, lost the parents in the void, and there's little improv scripts that I think we've all sort of come up with to do that. But yeah, so we do always have at least one team member off the VR just in case everything goes completely crazy. And if
we're fortunate enough to have multiple actors as well, so that's nice as well. If someone can't do something, then hopefully someone else can step in for them. But yeah, I mean, but worst case scenario, you just tell people we have to reschedule. They're typically pretty happy, pretty fine with it, so long as you reschedule and refund them if necessary. Just so long as you're doing what you can do for customer service, people are generally okay. But just happens.
If the Alex falls out and can't get in, we have a way to reassign that part. And for our show, that sort of works out because it's dealing with dissociative identity disorder. Having someone who is being one of the alters, a different audience member, step in as Alex actually weirdly works
like
with
the
confronting
in the story.
So it may be when you're writing the script, maybe having those contingency plans, or if the main participant or main participants dropped out, there's something that makes sense with the story as to why someone else might take over the part.
Try to build in contingencies whenever you can, but you can't think of everything. So when something new happens, then you have your contingency plan for whatever that is. Whether it's going, oh, we should have done X, now we know for next time, right? That'll happen too. I mean, I remember doing The Tempest and having the cable guy just insistently knocking on my door. I actually had to go, hold on a second. And then I muted myself and I opened the door and I was like, I'm doing it. I can't shut the door and went back to the show, right? So, and then I said, sorry, these things happen,
and
right?
like
and then everybody
gaming,
laughed.
I would say there's a lot of stuff that you won't know is a film until it happens. Right? When a video game producer puts out a game, they've tried to think of everything possible, but there will be somebody who breaks a thing. And
yeah, that'd be Brady.
Then they go, oh, that's a thing that we didn't think about. One of the wonderful things, or the learning experiences, has been the combination of theatrical audiences with gaming audiences, and how that differs, and how you have to sort of think about how do these various types of audience members interact with performance.
Well,
highly recommend testing.
Oh, yeah,
with
testing.
The proper test audiences. Otherwise, all of your best laid plans will absolutely go awry.
Yeah, there's the show you make, and then the show that happens when the audience comes in. It's a whole different show. It's a whole different show. I would add to this, tech issues, right? Now as a performer, we're also technicians. We now have to troubleshoot Wi-Fi, cue all of our own shows. We have to deal with what happens if the microphone isn't working for your audience member, and troubleshooting, all kinds of different things for ourselves and our audiences. And as far as equipment goes, just make sure that you get something that's going to be comfortable. I first got my Quest 1, it's so front heavy, and I was like, I can't do this, I'm getting headaches. Since then, we've added weights on the back, and it's beautiful. Even Steve, who's on a Quest 2, we had to get we got the knockoff version of the sort of pro strap, which is great. It was only $30. It sort of wrenches in really nicely, and we added weights to the back of that. I've added weights to the back of my G2. Like, make your stuff comfortable, and if it fits right, you should be able to be in VR for much longer than you would be if you're like dealing with a heavy headset. I like to be tethered during my shows because I find that having a corded Ethernet to my laptop is a more stable Wi-Fi connection. So if you can, great. If you can't, I did all of the Underpresents and Tempest on my Quest 1, so that was not tethered, right? But I had to plug it in because I'm doing a lot of shows. Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't use a weight, but I when I was performing as Krampus one time, my headset did flop off my head, and I had to deal with that in the middle of the performance. So maybe a weight would have helped during that situation. I don't know. Let's pick up one eventually.
We have questions over here.
Thundercat, did you have a question you wanted to ask? No, okay. No, just like your hand was up.
All right.
I would say intimacy and connection is really what performance is about, whether it's between your actors or your audience members. What are some of the more popular platforms and that you can use for VR production?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you can use AltSpace, absolutely, and people do. I would say it's a little bit it's better for stuff like this, AltSpace, where you're giving a talk or lecture. Obviously, we don't have legs, things like that, so the sort of disbelief is harder. VR chat definitely has tech issues, but I think at the moment, for budget production, it's probably one of the better options. You can customize a lot of things. There are asset stores that have most of the props you could possibly want. It's very easy to bring in new assets. It's relatively easy to build a pretty basic world, even if you don't have a ton of experience. So, there's Neos and a few other platforms as well. And then there are certainly some higher end, more expensive platforms that are in use that I know some companies are using. You also, if you have the resources, time, money, you can absolutely build your own app. But all of these have their own sort of problems, and they all have their own pros and cons. I would say. I think
one of the reasons I like
in general for starting
out, I would in VR chat is that they're Quest friendly, right? Whereas Sansar, Neos, and some of the higher end ones are not. And like a lot of our audience are on Quest.
I think the typical you see is about 9/10 of your audience are on Quest. So you can do wonderful things in Neos and these other PC exclusive platforms, but you're just not going to get nearly as many people. And we like to make theater for people and not just theoretical, just do it for ourselves, you know?
We're trying to, in addition, because this is also new, we're building a community, right? So all of you are here because you're interested in exploring this crazy, brave new medium we've found ourselves in. And Quest, it has issues, but also it's one of the more affordable and readily available to the general public. So if we want to start building an audience, building interest, I think performing on platforms that are Quest compatible is probably the best thing you can do, because that's where, as Deirdre and Brian both said, like that's where most of your audience is going to come from. So, you know, maybe one day everyone will have $2,000 motion capture and PC headsets, maybe, but probably not. You know, most people, they can afford, or, you know, maybe as a gift, people can afford $300 is a thing. They're like, okay, I want to test this out, so I'll get a headset, or even, you know, go somewhere where they can try a headset. A lot of universities now are employing headsets, so you can go to your school library and try on an Oculus headset and see a production through there.
And
I think
what I'd like to mention
you're starting out,
is
it's something to think about.
Is that VR chat is great and ideal for the sort of, I guess, full-blown theater that we do. I don't know how to best phrase that, but not everything is that, right? So much of life is performance, and so much performance is outside of what we traditionally think of as theater. I think that there's a wonderful opportunity here in Altspace to do things like guided tours. Rebecca Evans here in the back. Hey, Rebecca. She actually has done similar things in Altspace, also in Mozilla Hub, which is a browser-based VR application, or it's something browser-based which you can access via VR headset. And what she's done is among other things, is done sort of guided tours where they're telling you about a historical event or a particular thing of interest. And then you don't really need a lot of the affordances that we depend upon to do a more a more narrative-based performance. But there are certain things like the ability to get people into the world. Altspace is great with it. And also their events page. Like maybe this event just popped up for you and you just knew to come here. Like there are tools that are available for Altspace that we don't have in VR chat that can allow certain types of performance to be better on this platform. And another one is Rec Room. Rec Room is more about playing. It's more about games. It's more about interaction. And I could see something like a game show being very successful in Rec Room, whereas doing the sort of thing that we do, it's a bit harder because you, again, don't have that sort of freedom in your avatars, which is one of the hugest things. You know, we need to be able to be character that we need to be for the performance, but other platforms offer things that might not be traditional theater as you might think of it, but might offer opportunities for performance and interaction in ways that VR chat does not provide so readily.
I just also want to add quickly too that, you know, when you're thinking about doing a show, you know, think about the amount of actors you have in the show, because you don't want you to have more actors than you have audience members, and instances can be so small that you can't have, too many people in here yet. And I'm sure that will change, but you can also become different people because you can quickly change avatars, right? So, double casting, your cast so that they can change out into different roles can also help you when you're thinking of your production and what it is that you want to put together.
I think I saw a question over here. Claire?
Hello, hi guys.
Hey.
Hey, I make music. Good to see you.
Yeah, hi. Hey, hello. So I've seen the show, and something I was really impressed with was your onboarding process in the first 30 minutes, talking with the participants. And could you talk a little bit about how you set up the expectations or how you would like your other performers or otherwise audience members to themselves perform in the show, and maybe talk a little bit about, is a lot of people are probably very shy, like don't know what to do. And your show wonderfully got people comfortable, got me very comfortable in getting ready to do a very unusual thing, be a small child. Like it's been a long time since a lot of us have been a small child, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, our onboarding space is very important to us. It's something that's incorporated in a lot of immersive theater to try to bring your audience into a space that feels similar and gets them in a place that is more receptive to whatever your show is. It also function in the fact it takes a long time to get somebody into VR if they've never been into VR before, or they've never been into the particular application that you're using, like VR chat, which is very difficult to onboard. Like here, which is why we do the panels here, because of the whole like event system, which is brilliant. But for there, we have to teach them how to get into VR, and we have a landing space where one of the actors entertains the audience, tries to get them into the mindset, troubleshoots, all those things, while the other actor is in the world bringing them in. So the mom is there to catch the audience and entertain them while we're waiting for the other people to come in. And that I think is very, it's a very smart way to do onboarding and to bring your audience into your space.
Well, and I think things that may seem innocuous in that onboarding. So, if you got in there and the bear character was there saying, "Oh, welcome, welcome. Tell me about this thing when you were a child, or tell me about your favorite stuffed animal. Or did you have a favorite game?" and then asks you to play hide and seek. All of that may seem, as I said, fairly innocuous, but it's not. It's getting you into that mindset without pushing it, right? Asking you to think about childhood, asking you to think about those relationships you had when you were a child. All of that is vitally important, getting you into the mood for the show. This sort of theory, would say one of the greatest examples of it is Disneyland. How many people have been to Disneyland, or one of the sort of Disneyland resorts or things like that? Okay. So when you go on the rides there, right from the beginning, everything is putting you into the world of that ride. Right? The Indiana Jones ride, you're in a sort of temple thing, and it's all done like a set. That's onboarding. That's getting you into the frame of mind that they want you to be in. Oh, you're going on this epic adventure. So we have to, when you're building an immersive experience, think about that as well. How are you going to get the audience into the mindset that you want them to be in for this show? Is that sort of...
I would just want to add too that offboarding is also equally as important, right? Theater essentially is a social place to go, and you don't want to lose that opportunity for your audience members to come together, say hi in the lobby, and then see a show, and then afterwards have a place that they can also see everyone for the show and interact however long they want. But we're going to stay a little bit longer, but it is 2 minutes to 1 o'clock, so I am going to wrap this up. I am going to thank you all for coming. We are the Ferryman Collective. The show is Welcome to Respite, the Severance Theory, Welcome to Respite. And I want to thank our amazing camera people, Carlos Austin and Andrew Burr, for helping us out. Yay! And streaming this out into the world. Thank you so very much for coming. We are going to stay, so hang out if you want, but I'm just officially closing this. Thank you so much.
I think we had a question from Nidish. Yes? An additional question?
Yeah, only if there is a space for that one now.
Oh yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're just
I'm hanging
closing the stream.
Yep.
Okay, so have you faced any challenges with any character or any script in VR, like the act of sleeping or the act of eating, any act which must have been pushed you to some kind of limits?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll hand this over to our proper actors, but I know that so Welcome to Respite in particular is based off a live performance. It's based off of a live in-person performance that happened in Los Angeles, and some of the things that they did in that show were things that you mentioned. I think that they were eating. I think you actually did get to have cookies in that show. Spoiler alert, we don't let you have the cookies because we can't because you can't eat in VR. In our show, and you were also able to be put into bed, and I understand they kind of tucked you in like a burrito. We could potentially be able to put you in that position of being in a bed and being tucked in, but obviously we can't create that tactile feeling of doing that. So I guess part of it, and we'll hand this over to our actors, but part of it is just figuring out, well, there are these things that we just can't do, or these especially tactile things we can't do. So sort of what can we do in lieu of that can kind of accomplish a similar thing? And that's been a process of experimentation and figuring stuff out. And in a lot of ways, that's the reason that we did Welcome to Respite, is so we could have that process of figuring out how do we take these things that are so important to vital in-person